Please welcome our superhero sponsor, the Portal Connector, with the amazing Steve Webb, VP Product Developer by day, superhero by night. Today, Steve will be saving the day by presenting the importance of portals in your digital transformation strategy. Stick around after Steve's session for a live Q&A with a real superhero.
Hi folks, thank you for joining me to discuss the importance of portals in your digital transformation strategy. My name is Steve Webb, and I am the Vice President of Product Development at the Portal Connector. Before I begin, I just want to thank the folks at DynamicsCon for hosting another great event, and to all of you, the attendees, for making it a success. In my presentation today, we will be reviewing some interesting statistics outlining the importance of engaging with your customers or members with a portal. We will also review some of the benefits of having a portal to service your customers. Finally, we will discuss some of the great features the Portal Connector has to offer and how we can help you reach your customer experience goals while reducing risk. So let's get started. There is no surprise that 90% of consumers expect companies to have a portal. But really, how many companies have invested in portals? The total number is not something that is easily assessed, but I can tell you that in 2020, it was estimated that 65% of small businesses don't have a website, let alone a portal. Now, of course, with medium to enterprise businesses and associations, the numbers are likely a lot better for websites, but for portals, I wouldn't be surprised if 70% of the people attending today do not have a portal. The reason this is important is not because it is expected that you have a portal, but it's viewed by consumers as a core element to customer service. And customers are willing to pay more for it. 64% surveyed said customer service is more important than price. To provide a stronger case, 67% of customers prefer it instead of talking to me or you. What is even more interesting is this. Now imagine, take 3/4 of your customers and look at what 16% more revenue looks like from that group. Now, how else can a portal impact your organization? Really, it's about balance between making money versus saving money. But why can't you have your cake and eat it too? So let's get started with the next question. How will portal help me save money? It's all about operational costs. There are hard values associated in servicing members or customers. Let's look at a portal example. One of the most common portals we see is a customer service or self-service portal. These types of portals typically allow users to manage their support tickets, access important knowledge articles, update their personal information, or even access technical documents and downloads. By having users manage these aspects themselves, your organization will realize significant savings. Those savings come at a reduction to full-time employee costs. And what is surprising, most folks prefer to solve their own problems. It's also interesting to note that a majority of millennials start their journey online, looking for answers. A study done by SuperOffice found that on average, a user that self-serves costs 25 times less than if a representative engaged with them by email. And forget about saving money if a call from your support team happens. These stats alone could justify making a portal initiative priority. If we look at how a portal can help your organization make money, there are a few different ways. First, we'll look at customer or member acquisition, because it makes sense that more customers or members you have, the more revenue will be generated. A large percentage of millennials are more willing to buy from you than the other guy if they can access a portal on their phones. That's great, but how would they know unless they buy? Believe it or not, it's still word of mouth. Whether online or in person, 72% of customers share positive experience with 6 or more people. Another interesting but unrelated benefit is that businesses that have successfully improved customer experience see employee engagement rates increase by an average of 20% as well. The most significant way to make money is with customer or member retention. You have them, let's keep them. From this stat, it's clear that consumer loyalty is based on customer service. Now, if you look at how this impacts profit, it's estimated that increasing your retention rates with your shiny new customer service portal by 5% your profit could increase from 25 to 95%. And I think it's reinforced by this statistic. Users will pay more for a great experience. That's great, but execution is everything. What if you execute your new portal poorly? If you miss the mark on delivering, you can see that there are some not too pleasant stats when this happens. It would be great to satisfy everyone, but keep in mind that there is very good chance you will lose that customer to a competitor if you fail. And it's more likely you will lose them, 4 times more likely. The worst part about losing a customer is that 91% of the time, you won't even know they're gone. Now, we understand the impact, both positive and negative, of customer experience. The next question is, how can the Portal Connector help in reducing your risk, propel you past your competitors, and deliver the experience your customers are looking for and deserve? When assessing risk in rolling out a portal, the topic of security is one we address frequently on several fronts. Where is our customer data stored? How do our customers authenticate? Can we host the portal internally? With the Portal Connector, all your sensitive data remains in your current systems. We don't synchronize data, we simply act as a conduit to display your data. Customers can authenticate with virtually any identity provider. We do have pre-configured providers for Azure AD and Azure B2C, OpenID Connect, all of their social accounts, and a few others if you choose to enable that functionality. The Portal Connector can be hosted anywhere, in Azure as an app service or infrastructure, on-premise, AWS, anywhere. Another element in reducing risk is cost certainty. Our licensing model is not consumption-based. It's perpetual. You buy it, you own it, with no limitations onto page views, users, or logins. Finally, removing barriers. We see so many projects come our way that unfortunately were started on other platforms. Initially, in many cases, those projects were succeeding. They went to execute one or more complex requirements only to find that the platform they chose, as appealing as it was initially, couldn't meet the required complexities. In some cases, they had already invested heavily on that platform. The Portal Connector is the most customizable Dynamics portal platform available. And if the requirements cannot be achieved out of the box, then you have the capability to customize every aspect of the platform with standard technologies. Another way we remove barriers is that the Portal Connector works with all versions of Dynamics CRM, from 2011 to 365, online or on-premise, as well as CDS or Dataverse. We can also help you compete. Your team spends a lot of time and money branding your organization, and it would be a shame to lose the finer points of your branding because of platform limitations. The Portal Connector is built on an enterprise-level content management system. It is designed to account for any branding requirements by having the capability to use custom templates, CSS, HTML, and resources to make your portal pixel perfect. SEO isn't an afterthought with the Portal Connector. Again, with the content management capabilities, descriptions, keywords, tags, and categories can all be managed easily with the Portal Connector. With how flexible each component of the Portal Connector is, you can build absolutely any customer experience you require to make you stand out from your competitors, and without limitations on how data is managed or the customization capabilities of out-of-the-box components. One of the keys to helping you deliver is our exceptional support. The Portal Connector offers free training, full documentation, and a dedicated support team to make sure you succeed. We also have a daily Q&A session that our customers can register for free. That will give you access to a live portal developer to help you with configurations, customizations, questions, and best practices for new functionality. The Portal Connector was designed for citizen developers, with it being completely drag and drop, point and click experience. But we understand that sometimes you need a developer to push your portal to its max, so every aspect can be extended by a developer. We even provide code examples so developers can make their own reusable drag and drop components. Some of the standard pre-built integrations we have include SharePoint, Power BI, and more recently, we just rolled out our new Power Automate connector, which provides a tremendous amount of integration power. We'll take a look at this in a few minutes. The key here is that if it's not pre-built, you have the tools to be able to integrate with any system that has an API. Enough with the PowerPoint. Before we get into a demo, I just wanted to mention some of the great features we just released with our version 6 of the Portal Connector. In this release, we introduced the Power Platform Connector, which is amazing and opens up so many possibilities. We also rolled out a new navigation feature for form flow, and we extended our auditing module to have integrated reporting. Let's take a look at the Portal Connector in action and dig into some of these features. So what we have here is a demo portal. Just has some basic functionality that we built out for this presentation. So I'm going to log in as one of my users, Jen. Jen is a contact inside your Dynamics system, or it could be CDS. So when Jen logs in, she's going to be immediately brought to her support tickets, and you can see that Jen has quite a few support tickets. She's pretty heavy on our support team. You know, she has access to all of her closed cases as well as any cases that are required for follow-up, and she can also create a case. If I scroll down, we also have some charting capability that we have in place here, so she can, you know, see some of those analytics based on the cases that she has open. So those charts are out-of-the-box functionality, but they could also very well be Power BI charts or tiles or reports. So from here, Jen would be able to create a new case, edit a case, or as I said, check the cases that are required for follow-up. She can also go in and modify her personal profile. So a lot of these examples are examples that we talked about in that customer service, self-service portal that we outlined earlier. So Jen has access to updating all of her information. Of course, you know, we could have some of this information locked down so she can't edit it on a field by field basis. But again, all of this information is coming from Dynamics CRM or 365 or Dataverse in real time. She also has access to modifying her company profile. And in here, you can see that it's not just her company profile, but we can also show related information. These are all the contacts that actually relate to her company as well. So if I open up one of these records here, you can see I can modify Craig's information as well. This could be locked down with security. So if you only want certain users to be able to modify company information, you can secure that pretty easily in the Portal Connector. She also has access to her order history. So if she wanted to dig into her orders, she can see any of the orders that she has pending right now, of course. And of course, the details for those orders as well. From here, you can even integrate the e-commerce capabilities and have a pay now button where she can actually pay for those orders. Or it could be a real-time shopping cart scenario where they can walk through and eventually get to the point where they're entering in payment credentials and making a successful order that way. So that is just a very quick example of some of the functionality that the Portal Connector can build out pretty easily on the front side for your users. Now, what we're going to jump into now is actually how some of this stuff is configured, because you can, as I said before, you can configure any type of custom experience, but really it's how it's actually configured. So here what I'm looking at is my administrative area for the Portal Connector. The Portal Connector is managed completely outside of your business system. Business systems are great for business data, but not for building websites. You need a website tool for that. And as I said, this is an enterprise level content management system. So you can see across the top that we have our dashboard, which we're on now. We have a pages section. Content, we have a whole bunch of built-in content, news, blogs, events, also forms. So we're going to be talking about forms a fair bit today. Some Portal Connector elements, e-commerce, design, and some administration and marketing elements. So now if I was to go into that page that we were just on, the support page where it showed all of our support tickets, I can go into my pages section, and you'll see here that the navigation structure is actually in line with the navigation that we had on the front end of the site. So we have our login. We have a support section with our dashboard, adding cases, editing cases, our profile pages, and our order history, so on and so on. So if I jump into that dashboard page, what we're looking at here is essentially that same view that we had on the front end. Only difference is it's in editable mode. So you can see all the different components that we can edit here. We have our two charts. and we have our open cases and our closed cases, so on, and so on and so on. So as I said, it's completely drag and drop. So it's not just components that you can drop in there, but you can also go over to the layout side of things and actually drag in new columns. So if I wanted a new format with one column and two column, a larger column here, I can just drag that in there. And now I can take all of my Portal Connector widgets or content widgets and start dragging those into those columns. So it's completely flexible. And if you want to, you can even create your own layout. So if you had some type of special, formatting for specific pages, you can do that. One of the widgets that I mentioned in the new features is Form Flow. And Form Flow is it's a great tool. It allows us to essentially take multiple step forms and break it into really workable workflows. So if I click on edit here, I just drag that on there. It's going to bring up my designer, and that's what this is called, is a designer. Each of these widgets have a designer, and this one here is specifically for form flow. This is the new navigation element, so you can actually specify, a complete navigation structure for these forms. So if it's multiple steps, maybe I want to collect personal information, and then the next step is I want to collect maybe education. Third step could be experience. If we're talking about like a job portal or something like that. So we can actually break it out into navigation where it actually has clickable steps and it will follow that flow. But what's really impressive is form flow itself. So if I go back to my flow side of things and I define a flow, it allows me to actually create a flow. I can take a pre-configured form that I would have created in the form section, which we will touch upon. And I can say, hey, you know what? The first form that I want users to see is the contact information. So I can find my contact form. There it is there. And of course, I have a whole bunch of options. I'm going to click on save here. And then what I can do is you can see down the side here, we can add another form, a page, a rule, an email, a workflow from Dynamics, or maybe a custom action from Dynamics. So we can execute Dynamics functions and features from the Portal Connector. So the first one I'm going to drag on here is a rule. So I'm going to drag that on and I'm going to configure this rule. And what this is going to do, it's going to take a look at the answers provided in the previous form that we have loaded here, the profile form. And then I can say, you know what? If my, let's go with marital status. If my marital status is equal to married, click on save, then what I can do is I can say, hey, you know what? Maybe I want to collect my spouse's information. So if it's, and I don't have a spouse form here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these profile company forms, click on save. And now if I'm not married, I can actually present a different form or a different route that that user is going to be taken down. So as we configure this out, and let's go with, I'm just going to take another contact here. As we configure this out, we can build this whole workflow of forms based on rules. And I can have as many rules as I want. So I can, check the marital status, check their age, and then continue on if I wanted to. I also have the capability of adding emails. So if I wanted this flow to, when they submitted this profile form, if I wanted to send an email, I can have an email configured to send that, and I can just insert their information from a previous step right inside here. Now when they're going through this, when they submit this form, it's going to send that email off, or maybe it's going to actually action a workflow or something along those lines. So it's a super powerful tool. And what we've done in 6.0 is added that navigation element so you can actually jump from step to step, within reason, of course. You want to make sure that you define the rules properly, very seamlessly. So I'm going to jump out of this and let's just cancel this here. And I'm going to just actually remove this element completely. And we're going to talk about a couple of other elements we have on this page. So another element that we enhanced in this version is our Power BI embedded capabilities. So when I drag this on here, I'm going to click on edit. What this is going to allow me to do is now in our Power BI widgets, we have server-side filtering. So if I went into one of these app reports or app dashboards or app tiles and I configured this, I can now actually send filtering over to the server. So it's pre-filtered before we actually return it. That way, we can have those reports customized to the user that's logged in. It's a great feature, and it's something that a lot of our customers have asked for over the year. Another element that I wanted to bring to light is something that's been around for a while, and it's our list view. So if I click on edit here, we talked a little bit about development capabilities. So of course, a developer can get in there and they can actually access the site with Visual Studio and customize anything that they want within Visual Studio. But maybe it's just the structure or the format that they just want to tweak a little bit. If they want to do that, every one of our widgets is templated. So inside here, you can actually create brand new templates or modify existing templates. So you can see here we have quite a few custom templates here, and all this is just basically HTML. They can go right into that template and customize the view, and it's all bound to the data that we've provided here. Now this data, how do we get that data in there? If you flip over to the data tab, you'll see that all of our data widgets are based on Fetch XML. It's a query language from Microsoft that they use in Dynamics, Dataverse. It's out there. No worries if you don't know Fetch XML, you don't need to. We do actually have a Fetch XML builder that you could use. So clicking on build, it will open up that builder, and now you can actually add attributes from whichever entity or table that you have inside of Dataverse or your dynamic system. You can also add filtering and linked entities. So if you want to, have some related information in there, it's going to pull all that information out, and then you can use it in one of those custom templates. So, and finally, on the page side of things, the last thing I wanted to just to review is, and actually I'm going to flip over to a language here, it's just our grid functionality. So we talked about the list view, form flow, Power BI, but we also have a very powerful grid. So that grid is the default type of functionality that you would expect. You would have a list of records, you click on one of those records, and it takes you into the details of that record. So if I click on edit for one of these grids, now you can see it again, the design looks very consistent. We can modify the template, we can customize some of the properties, whether they're allowed to add records or edit records. We can even secure some of that. We also have the capability to do bulk editing of records. One of the new features that we're currently working on is to be able to have a full inline editing capability of the grid. So you don't have to dig into the record. You can actually edit multiple records right in place. I can also specify whether I want that grid to open up the edit form in a different page or pop-up, and then I just specify where that edit page is. Again, we talk about the data. It's based on Fetch XML. We have the settings, for the paging, the grouping, filtering, editing columns. We can even, have it so, if a user customizes that grid, we can have it so it saves that customization and it reloads it next time that they log in. So they can customize their own experience. And again, we also have the capability to add custom columns. So if you wanted a custom button in the grid, or maybe you wanted to be able to have a link for the email address, you have that capability to customize every element of this grid. And that would be, where you would modify that. So it is a very powerful tool. Okay, so enough with the page widgets. I think I talked a lot about all of this functionality, but actually before I leave, we touched a little bit on security before. So the way that the security is managed in the portal connector is that every single element you can assign security permission rights to. So even this grid, if I only wanted certain user groups or roles to be able to access this, I can simply just go to my More menu and go into my permissions. And you can see by default that everyone has access to view this right now. So I can change this, and I can say only selected roles or users can access it. And I can take a look at all my roles. You can have as many roles as you want. These are just some of the predefined ones that we have in the system. You can also specify specific users that are allowed to access it, and that's it. So if I said only users or maybe editors are allowed to access it, then Jen wouldn't be able to get access to it. So absolutely every aspect you can assign permissions to. So I'm going to actually go back to my pages here. From here, if we wanted to, on a page-by-page basis, we could also assign security to it. So if I look at this portal element here, so by default, all of the pages under it are going to inherit those permissions unless you tell it not to. So if I go to this main node portal and I go into actions and I go into my permissions, again, I can customize it, and you can see I've already restricted it to only users are allowed to access these pages. So every element, including content elements. So if I went in here to create news or events or something like that, I can actually assign permissions to those individual content items. So moving on, what we're going to do is jump into the forms section. So when we talk about a portal, portals are really just, a display of information and being able to interact with that information. So, to do that, in many cases, you need something that lists records. And we saw that with the list view or the grid. And then we need something to edit or modify those records. And usually that comes in way of a form. So our form section, you can see that we have a bunch of forms built out, and a lot of this is actually just for our demo site. But if I jump into this company one, again, you'll notice that the experience is consistent throughout the whole system. So again, we have our designer and we have all of our widgets and our editing capabilities, but we also have that layout side of things where we can, use custom columns if we wanted to. Inside here, the only difference is, compared to the pages, is that instead of looking at widgets that have lists of records or reports or something like that, what we're looking at now is a field by field type widget. So you can see that we have text fields and yes, no fields and lookups and so on and so on. But we also have some more advanced fields like party lists and signature blocks, a SharePoint grid. So again, we do have that SharePoint integration that we talked about. And what that does is if you have that integration configured inside your Dynamics system, it will surface those documents that are related to this specific record. And it can be filtered as well. We can add a subgrid so we can show related information. We can add workflow buttons so it can fire a workflow in the background. And then of course we can also do some other advanced stuff like add a pay button where it'll send you into the e-commerce section. One of the coolest things that we have is actually this rules manager. So if I use one of these, I'm just going to drag it on there and drop it in place. What the rules manager does is it allows you to configure without code. Again, it's drag and drop and point and click. Without code, it allows you to configure rules for the form. So if I said that, maybe when my name is equal to a certain value, so let's go with Steve, then I can say, you know what, let's hide or show a field, or maybe set the value of a field, disable a field, make required, show a section, or I can even actually configure it to run a script. So if I wanted to hide a field, I then just simply select which field I want to hide. And you can see it's building that rule out below. So you can have as many of these rules as you want, which makes that form really dynamic, so hiding and showing sections and, displaying information and hiding information, locking fields, setting fields as required. You have all of that capability. So that's a really cool, powerful feature that we have. And then finally, when we're talking about the different fields, we do have, again, if we look at that lookup field. So I have a lookup on here right now. It's the primary contact. If I click on edit for this particular field, again, it's data driven. So we have to specify where that data comes from. This particular field is read only, so we don't need to actually define a query because we're just requesting the information from the record itself inside of Dynamics. But again, even these fields are customizable. So if I want to customize what that field looked like for writing, so maybe I wanted to integrate with an address lookup service, and I'm making a web service call, and then as they start typing, we can see all the different addresses, and they can select it and have that information populated into other fields. That's great for these types of templates because once you modify one of these templates once, you can use it throughout the whole site. It doesn't have to be just for that specific field. So again, we do have the data side of things where you would build a query. You have the appearance capabilities, and you also have filtering. So what's really cool about the filtering, and we haven't gone over it much, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but with the filtering, you can even filter items on fields. So if I wanted a grid on this page and I wanted to say, hey, you know what? Anytime that they selected a certain value, let's filter this grid based on that information. It does it dynamically. There's no coding required. It just works. So this is what building a form looks like. Another really cool feature that we have is the ability to have multiple records embedded within each other. So if I, right now I have my primary contact here. If I wanted to actually be able to modify that information, the actual contact record on an account form, then I can simply just go to my layouts, okay? And I would drag one of these new layouts on here, go back to my content, take a form configuration widget. And what this does is it allows you to select an entity inside your system. So this is the data that we're going to be working with. So when I click on edit here, it's going to ask me, okay, well, which entity are we working with here? So as I drop this down, I'm going to say it's going to be a contact entity. Okay, so I'm going to select my contact. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to specify how it's related to the parent record. So I'm going to say contact is a field on the account record, and then I'm going to select which actual field it is on the account record. That's how smart it is. It knows all about how your dynamic system is structured. It doesn't matter how crazy it is, it's going to know all those relationships, all of those fields, everything. So when I click on save now, what that does is it knows this is a contact entity record that we're going to be modifying. So now if I drag in fields here, and maybe I take a pick list as well, and I click on edit, it's going to actually ask me for which attribute I want to modify. So right now I'm in a pick list, so it's showing me all the pick list options I have for the contact entity. So if I selected gender, for instance, and I can also specify a default value if I wanted to. Click on save, and then again, I can do that same thing with my text field. The difference is that last time it was a pick list, this time it's a text field. So now I'm looking at all the text related items that I can select. It's even smart enough to realize that if it's a composite field, for instance, address 1, which is a group of all of these together, it's actually going to automatically make that read only. So you can't submit something to a composite field. But if I select a first name and then click on save, then I have that first name field. So it's a very intelligent system. And it's hard, really hard to get to the point where you're going to get in a bind. It understands your data. So I'm going to actually jump out of this form. And the last thing I want to talk about is something that we're super proud of at the Portal Connector. And that is we officially have our Power Automate connector. So if I go into, well, actually, you know what? Let's go into connectors here really quick. Just to show it off, there it is there, recently added connectors, TPC Portal. That's what it's called. Apparently, our name for our connector cannot be the Portal Connector. So we had to be creative and call it TPC Portal. So I'm actually going to create a new one here. I'm going to show you all the great features that we have. So inside of the create, I'm going to actually start from a blank. Okay, and I'm going to skip this. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull up that connector portal. I can click on that TPC portal, and you can see all of these different triggers, from comments being created to content being created, form entries being submitted, logins, logouts, page navigations. We have so many triggers here. It was just an enormous undertaking to provide this much functionality in our first release of our connector. Even when a user is created or a role is assigned, we have all of those types of triggers. So if I go in here and I say maybe, when a user logs in, then basically it's going to take a look at all of my users, or I can leave it blank and it's going to trigger for every user that logs in. And then of course, the result, whether it's successful or maybe it was, a session expired or something like that. So I'm going to actually take success and I'm going to build a next step. So now what I want to show you is all of the actions that we have available for the Portal Connector. So these are all of the actions. So I can now assign roles, I can create content, I can edit portal users, I can get all the content from a specific content module. I can even publish content right here from Flow or from Power Automate, or Power Apps or Logic apps. It works with all of those different Power Platform capabilities. So it's a really cool tool that I think is going to open up a tremendous amount of integration capabilities with the 400 plus other systems that have Connect. Well, I think we're getting close to our time now. So what I'd like to do is just flip back here to my presentation. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you. I'm open for questions right now. To the right of your screen, you'll see the chat window. Just type them in there. We have a few minutes to address some of those. If we don't get through all the questions, I invite all of you to come to our booth. We're very active at our booth, and we'd love to address any of the questions that you may have there as well. And again, if you miss us, which is unfortunate, then you can always come by our website as well at www.portalconnector.com, and we'll be happy to answer questions on there through live chat, maybe a trial request, or even fill a fit assessment to see if the Portal Connector is the right solution for you. So I'll take any questions now. Well, thank you. Hey folks, great to be live. Just want to throw thanks out there to some of the folks in the chat, especially the ones with the great comments. Karen, Nick, Dion, of course. Thank you very much for joining me. So I do have a couple questions here that we get quite frequently. So if you do have some questions, type them into the chat, and I can try to address those for you. But as we're waiting for those questions to come through, I know that a lot of times folks have very complex UI requirements. And a lot of times the question is, well, how can we customize that? So if you take a look at our Portal Connector website, portalconnector.com, that's actually the Portal Connector that you're using. So you can create the same thing as a corporate website with all the moving parts and the beautiful user experience. All of that is part of the Portal Connector, and really the focus is here because it is built on enterprise level content management system. You can build any experience with it. Another question we get quite frequently, of course, is how much does it cost? I talked a little bit before in the presentation about how we license it, so it's not per login. It's a perpetual license, which means that when you buy it, you own it. Now, on the cost side of things, the Portal Connector starts at $15,000, one-time license fee, and of course you can get the enterprise version, which gives you a whole load of other functionality, all the add-ons, the ability to auto scale it, load balance it, and that is $27,000. But again, it's a one-time cost. Later this year, our plans are to release a SaaS offering as well, so you can break that down into monthly costs. But that's the plans. So we have my dog busting through my room right now. So if you see a dog pop up on the screen, then I'm very sorry about that, as she likes to open doors. So we have another question here. What would you consider are the use cases where the tool works better than Microsoft's? Really, Power App Portals, it's a good solution. There's some challenges around the licensing side of things right now. I'm sure most people know that if you have a large number of users logging in, it could get costly. When it comes down to it, where we see ourselves fitting in that ecosystem is more about when you need something a little bit more customized, when you need something that can't just be spun up with one of their sample portals. If you just need a very basic case management portal, spin up the customer service portal and Power App portals, and you're good to go, unless, of course, you have a lot of users logging in. So what we focus on is providing that professional enterprise-looking portal, completely custom from any other portal that you might experience down the line. It also, we also have the capability of of pretty much integrating with anything. So if you have, like a third-party system, maybe it's an obscure system that doesn't have a whole lot of connectivity involved in it, but it does have an API layer, that's somewhere where the portal connector thrives as well. So that's really where we see the differences there. Another question here from Chris, is that cost per portal? What about non-prod instances? So the cost is per portal, so it's per production domain. You do get unlimited non-production domains, testing domains, so on and so on. It's only the production domain that is that you have to license. Now, a lot of times when we talk about multiple portals, there is a sense out there that you need a different portal for different use cases, like vendors, for instance, or merchants, or volunteers. But really, with the portal connector, you can segment that. I'm very sorry about my dog, folks. She's a challenging one. She's only a year and a half old, but she's pretty distracting. Anyways, so you can have multiple use cases within that same portal as one single domain. Is this being used in any nonprofit orgs for engagement? Absolutely. So we have a tremendous amount of different use cases that's being used in. So pretty much every vertical, from government citizen portals to healthcare to again, like I said, nonprofit organizations, as well as volunteer charity type portals. It is something that we thrive in, is that we can fit into any vertical. So it is. It is very distracting, that dog. So as we're waiting for more questions to come in, so another thing is, how can you start using the Power Automate connector? So something that we've always had a policy for here is that if you're a current customer, and I see there's a couple of current customers on right now, if you're a current customer, you have access to it. You get grandfathered into any new functionality that we release, so you don't have to buy the add-on or any of that. You already own it. All you have to do is just get yourself up to Portal Connector 6.0, and then apply the new license key, and you're good to go with that Power Automate connector. Of course, you do need, licensing on the Microsoft side to use Power Automate. Yeah, thanks, Molly. Yeah, so the dogs are a little bit distracting. So if there's any other questions, I'll give you folks another half minute or so, and then what we can do is we can let you move on to the next session, and hopefully, you learn a lot this week. DynamicsCon is a great conference. This is our second time sponsoring DynamicsCon, and we're always proud to be a platinum sponsor of DynamicsCon. So one more licensing question here. Actually, we got a couple of questions. Let's start with Stacy's. What kind of ongoing support services are available? So that's something that we pride ourselves on as well. When we first introduced the Portal Connector 8 years ago, we heard from the community, because we're also a Microsoft Gold partner. We heard from the community that they were having a hard time delivering portals because of support. So we've made it a focus to support our customers and our partners. As a Portal Connector customer, you get 3 free priority support tickets, where you can reach out to us and open up a case if you do run into a configuration problem. But even if you don't, have a problem, you can even log into our daily Q&A sessions with developers. So those daily Q&A sessions will allow you to log in, ask questions, get answers every single day, and we can support you in that way. We also have a pretty active forum on our site as well. More importantly, if you call the Portal Connector office, someone's going to pick up the phone, guaranteed 24/7. So that's a huge advantage right there. So another licensing question. Sorry for can a single portal connect to multiple Dataverse instances then, or does the license cover only a single instance? So you can have multiple portals connect to one Dataverse or Dynamics instance, but you can't have one portal connect to multiple instances. That is something that we're looking at it for the future, but right now it's currently not possible. Portal connector is for online dynamics only? Absolutely not. So the portal connector works with all versions of CRM from 2011 all the way up to 365 online, on-prem, works with everything, including Dataverse, of course. So it's not restricted to only online. So if you have on-premise, then you're good to go with that as well. Another great comment from Heidi. Thank you. Have you found any big wins use cases with the connector yet? So it was just introduced. The Power Automate connector was just introduced, and we have quite a few of our partners already starting to use that with their customer implementations. So I'm sure that those use cases will probably start flowing in soon. It's only been out for just over a month, so it's definitely something that provides a lot of value. Thank you, Allison, for the daily Q&A. It is definitely a great feature, and it's always loaded with folks asking great questions. Is the dog part of the Portal Hero team? That one there, she has a little bit of an attention problem. My other dog, absolutely, but this one doesn't listen very well, so it's tough to have that dog in that on the team. So the 24/7 live telephone support, yeah. So you can call in, and someone's going to answer that phone. Oh, and another great comment from Dion. Thank you very much. So I'll give you another couple seconds here for any last questions, and then we can wrap it up. So as you can see, when I was going through that presentation, we just released our 6.0 release with lots of great features. We try to release about 3 to 4 versions a year, all of them with great features, and that's one of the advantages to the Portal Connector is that we have a dedicated product team that's focusing on features that are suggested and recommended from customers and partners. And of course, one of the biggest asks have been for a editable grid. So that's something that we're currently working on, and hopefully, we'll have that wrapped up for our 6.1 release, and then we can move onto some other great features. Yeah. So. Yeah, so absolutely, we're available to chat. So if you want to stop by our booth, you can stop by our booth, and we have folks there. I'll be there a little bit later. If you have any other additional questions, absolutely. You can also stop by our website and reach out to us there. You can talk to us on live chat. Lots of options there. We're not hard to get a hold of, and we like. Just talking about different scenarios on what you're looking at, or maybe you're having a challenge currently right now with your portal site and you want to look at alternatives. Well, by all means, we have plenty of folks that will jump on a call and talk to you about different scenarios. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you again for attending my session. It's been great. It's been fun with my dog, of course. It's always nice to have a little bit of a live session here. And again, I also like to thank DynamicsCon for organizing such a great event. We do a lot of conferences, and by far DynamicsCon is one of the best. So thank you. If you have any other questions, please stop by our booth.